right. Should be live. I have been messing around with this I've never done this. So I've been messing around with microphones and cameras. I don't know if you know this, but you can use the iPhone as a webcam without any wires if you're using a Mac. But I didn't know this part. The phone has to be locked. And the phone has to be in landscape orientation. So apparently I had it in portrait orientation and I could not discover the camera. Now I got it. Because trust me, the camera on the phone is so much better than the camera on the Mac. And then this microphone, we'll go into that. So I know nobody's here. That's good. This is my first time doing this, so it's probably better that nobody's here. But I've had this idea rattling around in my head for a while of wanted to do a podcast, but I have a podcast and I've had podcasts before, but it's a specific, I guess, the type of podcast. Right now, the podcast that I do is with my friend Renee DeFore, and we kind of talk techie stuff, and we talk about the digital life, and we talk about being creators, and we talk about YouTube and all the stuff that revolves around that, and then anything adjacent. But there's an itch that needed to be scratched, and I didn't realize what that itch was until I stopped using social media. And I'm just trusting, by the way, that you can hear me well, because I'm plugged into the microphone. I'm not YouTube does for some reason doesn't let me hear the sound that they're getting. So I'm hoping you're getting the same sound I am. When I stopped using social media, which was recently, it just kind of happened. I just kind of stopped using it and realized I don't really want to do it anymore. I realized that there were still things that I wanted to express or then wanted to just put out into the world or create, even in some cases, that I no longer had the ability to do since I stopped using social media. For the most part, that's a good thing. I've talked about this in some of my videos before, in particular with the first episode of the podcast I just mentioned, Introspectrum, which is on this YouTube channel. On the first episode I did with Renee, we talked about my balloon theory, that you have these impulses and thoughts, and you just, as a creator, you pump them into this balloon. And then it gets to a point where the balloon is about to break, and then that's when you make something, because you got to let all that air out. But social media can be, in a way, an anti-creator, because it's a way to continually let out little pieces of that air, so that pressure never builds. You never hit that point of the breaking point where you have to create something. But at the same time, there are certain things that maybe aren't something I'm going to make into a YouTube video, or something that I'm not going to make into a book or something like that. It's just something that I want to express, that there really isn't any other way that I had to do that. So my first thought at the time was, oh, I should just do a podcast. And I took off this last week for the holidays, and I sat down and I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I already have a Substack for my newsletter, the Curated Weekly newsletter, where I give out recommendations. I guess as I curate movies, books, albums, shows, products, gear, stuff like that. What I thought I could do is, I'm going to add a podcast to that Substack. And then that's just where I'll I'll just talk about the other stuff, and that'll be fine. And I already had created a second newsletter, and I'd only sent out that newsletter once, which was dedicated to something I used to do on an old website that I had. Well, not too old, but like several months ago. And it was, I collect all these questions. If you're watching me for the first time, yes, I ramble, especially live. I will come back to my points. These are all tangentially connected. But I used to collect these questions. If I'm going through something and there's something in, like if I'm using Obsidian and I don't know how to do something, I'll just write that question down. I'll check that out later. If I'm watching something on YouTube and it's something not even related to an app, like something about like how many wives did Henry V have? I'll just write that down. If I'm reading a book and I have a question about something, I'll write that down. I collect all the questions, and then what I try to do is this has nothing to do with even content creation. I try to go back to those questions because I feel like we have all these little loose hanging things in our head, these loose ends. So I try to go back and like enrich myself by at least filling in those loose ends. How the heck do I do this in this app? How the heck do I, how do I change actually, this is something I had to do recently. How do I prepare the pipes for a freeze in a place that's not used to freezing? I have to find these things out, but then I thought it would be useful for me to not only go back and find these things out, but also to, keep the answers in case I ever need to look it up again and create my own little resource. So when I had the Obsidian published site, one of the note types that I was sharing on there, because it wasn't a blog, I was sharing my notes from my note-taking app. One of the things I was sharing was anytime I had a question and I attempted to answer that question. Some questions you're going to come to a definitive answer, like how do I stop the thumbnails from automatically playing in the YouTube app, which I found super annoying. That has a definitive answer. Other things might not have definitive answers, so I can attempt to answer them. Something like certain things with history, you think you know the answer, but then, decades later, somebody else does this research and they find out, oh, that wasn't true. Well, then now all of a sudden that answer you had is no longer true. Or some things are just too complex to come to a black or white answer on. So going back to Substack, I had brought that back because I didn't think everybody was valuing it as much as they were. And it didn't, like people had mentioned that they enjoyed it, but it didn't really hit me that could be true until I was doing that episode with Renee and she mentioned it. And I realized, well, if people want this, why am I not doing it? I'm already doing it for myself. Why am I not just sharing it? So I sat down in my off week and I was like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. Here's the Substack, here's the curated weekly feed. I'll create a second feed for the attempts to answer, and then I'll create a third feed for podcasts, which I think I'm going to call Unfiltered. And that's what I was going to do. And Substack was having like some problem. At this point, I don't even know what it was. My response didn't come till like 7 or 8 days later because of the holidays. They weren't working. So I never got an answer, which is kind of ironic, talking about answers and questions. I never got an answer to that. And, I just got one of those standard emails of like, try this. And if that doesn't work, let us know. In other words, apparently I was the only one experiencing that problem. But it wouldn't allow me to edit my posts. Like I could go in and I could change things, but it thought I was offline. So I couldn't, publish any changes I made. I couldn't move things between those 3 feeds. And I just got so frustrated. And I had this moment where For the last year, I've had this building. I don't even say for the last year, for a long time, but it's really kind of come to a head this last year. This idea that I need to pry myself away from big tech. I did a video on this, but generally the idea is like all these companies have so much control over certain things in my life. And I'm not going to go into like making that any bigger than it is, but it's like, what can I do with the books that I've bought, the ebooks I've bought? Amazon controls that. I have no control over that. They have complete control over that. What can I do with my phone? I have very little control over that. Apple has control of that. It's as simple as those things, but instead of it just being isolated to one or two things, it's bigger. Hey, Renee, you're my first visitor. Um, I don't know how we, I guess slowly over time, we let these things just kind of overtake our lives. And I've decided to start working to pull those away. And I had this moment with the Substack thing where Substack's not this huge company, but I was like, oh, this is another company that has me by the balls right now. Like I want to edit these posts. I want to do something right now so that I can have it prepared. I was doing this stuff the early part of Christmas Eve, and I wanted to send it out like in the middle of the day, Christmas Eve, so that I wasn't sending anything Christmas Eve evening when people are busy or on Christmas Day when people are busy. I wanted to get it out. It wasn't anything super important, but I was just super frustrated that I couldn't do it because bugs happen. Which is just this realization of like, okay, I don't mind that if this was just a newsletter, I don't mind that could happen. But what if I also had a podcast invested in the same place and I had this other feed invested in the same place? Now, instead of ceding control of one thing to one place, I've ceded control of three things. And then when it comes to creating things online, we have so few options other than these big companies if we want to put things out with a certain level of quality. Like you can live stream video without Twitch or without YouTube, but chances are the quality is going to be better because they have billions of dollars to put into these things that other companies don't. And they also have the audience or the potential audience. Like I said, right now, nobody's here right now. But when this goes into the feed, there's a potential for people to see it. If I'm not doing this on YouTube, that the chance of that goes down, right? So it's okay to understand that if you're going to be an online creator, that you're ceding some of that control in exchange for distribution and in exchange for, I guess, innovation or stability on the apps and stuff that you're using. But what the problem that I was facing is it's okay for those things, but is it okay, or do I feel okay with multiple things being tied to one place? Think about this. Like, I don't talk about anything controversial. At least I don't think I do. But say I did, and then YouTube one day decided, like, nope, sorry, you're not allowed to make videos anymore. And I had everything invested into YouTube. Everything's gone. Or Twitter. Everything's gone. So while I think as creators online, we have to accept um, certain things that are out of our control because we don't make the apps, and they're not open source projects, most of them. We have very little control and we have very little knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes either, right? Some of that I think can be mitigated by diversifying. If YouTube decided they didn't like my videos, I have the backups for the videos going to Odyssey. So I could always continue making videos over on Odyssey. I have my newsletter over on Substack. Technically, I still have my Twitter, even though I haven't been using it. I can separate these things a little bit more. So I had this moment with like Substack where I'm like, I'm not, nothing against the company. And like I said, bugs happen. I just realized I'm like, do I really want to throw 3 eggs into this basket? Or can I do this differently? I started thinking about that. Okay, what do I want to do? And then while I was just I think I was probably watching YouTube. I don't know how this came up to me, but I have used Squarespace. I've used WordPress. I've used Tumblr. I've used Substack. I've used Weebly. I've used most of the things you can out there to make websites, and Obsidian Publish is another one I've used. And one of the things I always tried to avoid for a long time was using WordPress. Sorry if the camera shakes, but it happens every time I touch the desk. And it was just because WordPress required more knowledge than I wanted to give it to do certain things. Like back when I was trying to create these stylized websites, why can't I move this here and move this here? And it would just get terribly frustrating. So I always kind of avoided WordPress. And then when I was watching YouTube this time, I found out something I should have known all along that probably the rest of the world knew, but maybe even I knew it and I just forgot it because it wasn't valuable to me at the time that I learned it in the way that it's valuable to me now. But WordPress is open source. And I know that there are still some people out there who don't know what that means, but open source means like the code that they make, it's available for people to look at and to audit. And what that means is people out there can look at the code and see what's going on in the code, which is distinctly different than like these companies I'm talking about, like Apple and YouTube and Twitter. Those aren't open source. So, like this whole Twitter files thing that Elon Musk has been releasing these these things that Twitter was doing behind the scenes for the last few years. The reason that they were able to do those things is because they weren't open source. So they could do things in their code and nobody could see it. YouTube does similar things. Every company that has um, closed source code does certain things. And then they're not all doing it for malicious purposes. Usually the reason that they have closed source code is because if you have open source code, somebody can just copy your code and make something with your code because it's open source, right? So it's like like KFC's secret sauce. Some things they want to keep a secret. I understand that, but I really think as we go forward with technology, it's becoming more and more apparent that everybody eventually is going to abuse closed source. So recently, open source has become an important thing to me. I'm still not terribly educated on it. I haven't switched to Linux. I should probably, but it's become an important thing to me. So all of a sudden, I see WordPress is open source, and I'm like, wait, what? And that clicked a few more dominoes in line for me, where all of a sudden I realized, oh, wait, I don't feel like I have control over these things. But then here's WordPress, which is like one of the most, if not the most popular way to make a website, and it's open source. So that whole thing about, like the bigger companies having the money to invest in solid code. Here's WordPress, which, like I said, is probably the most popular way to make a website, and it's open source, but it still has the quality of something that has lots of money behind it. And what better way for me to cede back some of that control, or not cede back, but to take back some of that control that I conceded to make my own website. And then it hit me, oh, okay, that's where, this attempts to answer that should be on my own website. Why should I put that on Substack? Let's leave the newsletter on Substack. That's great. And if they want more, they can come over to the website. Okay. What else do I want to do there? What else do I want to do on that website? So I prepared all these notes and I'm totally I haven't looked at them once, but there are certain things that I wrote down here because I know that when the camera turned on, my mind would blank. Like, what other things am I doing on my own website? It's only it's only a little over a week old, so I don't even remember. I wanted to also this whole thing that I talked about with like seeding um, reseeding the control. I think I'm conceding and reseeding. These words are mixing up in my head right now. But pulling that control back from these big tech companies, I know it's a gradual thing. I know it's a difficult thing. So I thought it would be really interesting for me to kind of catalog my steps along that journey, even if they are super slow. And because I feel like there are other people out there that want to do similar things and they have um, a similar level of ignorance to it as I do. So that if I can figure it out, then they can figure it out. And if I can figure it out and come from this place of ignorance, then I can probably say it in a way that somebody that's also coming from that place of ignorance will understand. And so I figured, like, why not catalog that journey so that somebody comes along and then they could like binge that stuff and it'll benefit their life. That seems like a great thing to do on my own website too. So I think I called it, what did I call it? Retooling tech. Yeah, because it's the idea of taking technology away from being a lifestyle, which is what it's become, and make it back into being a tool. So I want to retool technology as a tool, not technology as a lifestyle. And then I realized that things that I've been doing, I don't want to say wrong, but things that I had been doing with the curated weekly newsletter that weren't rubbing against me the right way. Um, I realized that every week it was getting longer and longer, which is a good thing. I'm enjoying the process, but there is a limit on Substack because their newsletters, they still have to go out as newsletters. There's a limit. And every week I was getting the warning, like, you're reaching the limit, you're reaching near the limit. And I knew that I didn't want that to stop expanding if it needed to expand. So I made a choice to condense the newsletter because, I mean, when you read a newsletter, there are two kinds of newsletters. There's a strategery. I don't remember how you say it. Ben Thompson has a newsletter that he sends out, I think, every day. And it's long and it's involved something like Slate Star Codex. Is that what it's called now? Slate Star Codex and Astral Codex. I don't remember which one's the old name, which one's the new name. Long, involved melting asphalt is another one of these. Ribbon Farm is another one of these. They long, involved. They're like little books. They're essentially, like feature pieces that would be in a magazine, except as a newsletter. Those are things that you're just like, give me this content, and I want to read it, and I'm going to take time with it. I'm going to sit down with it, and I'm going to get into this. But there's another kind of newsletter. And it's something that you can just kind of rip through and then you click further to get things that you want from. And you know what that's called? That's called curation. This word that's like at the center of everything that I've been doing. The name of this channel is Curly's Curated. Curation. And what I had been doing wasn't delivering curation. I realized, I got to really just shorten those newsletters. I got to really condense that stuff up. But I don't want to lose the benefit of that length that I was getting. So that's something that can happen on the website too. But then it also hit me. I'm like, but let's be honest. It could also be videos. And just that idea, all of a sudden, just like, I put in place this website, and then this, and then this, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I see this direction. Like a lot of this stuff I started just with an inkling of what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden it's like, here's a path. Oh, okay. That's a good way to go about that. So the podcast becomes this idea where I'm like, wait a minute, does it need to be a podcast? No, maybe I could do that on YouTube. And then it hits me that maybe I should try this live thing. I wanted to call it unfiltered. Well, what's more unfiltered than live? Outside target demographics. I don't even know your name, man. I call you this long title. Happy belated birthday, man. I'm happy to see you here. I'm out on a limb here doing something I don't know what I'm doing. So thanks for coming to check it out. It's a pretty memorable time to have a birthday, by the way, New Year's Eve. The video looks all right? I hope the sound, I'm hoping this microphone, I was at the beginning of this thing, I was talking about how this microphone, YouTube doesn't let me hear it. So I'm listening straight through the microphone. So I'm hoping it sounds all right on that side. I was just talking about how I ended up at this idea of this unfiltered thing. It was a journey in the last week or two. The whole world gets drunk and blows their finger. That's right, man. You'll never be short of a party with a birthday on New Year's Eve. You'll never be short a party to have. So I wanted to try this out. Okay, Renee, it sounds good and it looks good. Okay. That's one of the things I want to talk about. I rearranged this whole room. So obviously you guys can't see this room, but the desk used to go like this. It was actually literally right where my hand is, like this. So I was filming, there was that map behind me, but then the rest of the wall was this white, boring wall. And with the exception of the index card video, which I filmed that way, but like at the edge of my desk and squeezed between the bookshelf and the desk, I realized I'm like, I've got this room set up. Is it talking about realizations? One of the realizations I had was this room, when I first moved here, I wasn't doing YouTube. Actually, Renee is the one who convinced me to start doing YouTube. And when I first set up this room, obviously I wanted the bookshelf. I'm a big reader, so I wanted a place to put all the books. But then I had the idea in my head, and like writing had always been like this big thing for me for most of my life. And I had this novel that had been kicking around for, at this point, I think like a decade, and I just never. I drift away from it and then back to it and away from it. So I had this idea of like, oh, I'll have my own space. I'll have my own office. What is it? Is it? I think it was Virginia Woolf said that every woman needs or every writer needs a space of her own or a room of her own to write. And like I always thought, like, because the place I lived in before is like my room, my living room, my office was all one room. The only thing I didn't have in there was a kitchen and a bathroom. That was in the rest of the house. So all of a sudden I had multiple rooms and I was like, I can have an office. Holy, whoa. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to make this into a writing space. It's going to be my writing nook. And then like I got in, started getting settled, and then I ended up doing YouTube and doing these things. And I realized I'm not doing a terrible amount of writing, doing a little bit here or there, but not a terrible amount of writing. Yet I have this whole room dedicated to this thing that I'm not doing very much. And this is a moment of like, wait a minute. I have this space dedicated to writing. I'm not doing it very much. And then I'm having to set up stuff every time I want to do YouTube. And I'm trying to make things work for YouTube. And I had it backwards. I needed to set this room up as a studio that could also, when I needed, to be a place where I can write. So I put this desk here. I got a light up there. I have a light over there now. I have a thing for the camera. I have brought this microphone out of the box, which I thought was broken. Turned out I just needed a new cable. So now I can leave this set up so I can make videos easier. Like this setup is going to be pretty normal. And I played around with the camera, but the iPhone camera looks pretty good, I think. The lights is what makes the difference. And I owned these lights already. I didn't even have to go buy any. Let me catch up on what you guys are talking about. 36 years old, man. You're young still. We're actually, you, me, and Renee are all staggered by about 10 years. She's about 10 years younger than you, and I'm about 10 years older than you. The bookshelf needs to be arranged. That's on one of the cards here. I was going to say that. I'm still trying to shuffle it. I think I'm going to get a third light so I can put some light over there. Actually, let me move this out of the way. I got a lamp. I got that today. I don't have any bulbs yet, but I'm going to put some Edison bulbs in it. But now I'm realizing maybe nobody's going to be able to see that. I might have to set that up that way. So I'm trying to figure this out. Like right now I realize like maybe I want to be that way a little bit more, but then I don't want the light switch in there. It's kind of fun, setting up this space. What else did I write down here that I wanted to say? That's one of the things, like the unfiltered thing. It was like a realization of like there's things that I want to talk about. I didn't mention the captain's log. So by the way, the website is captaincurlyproject.com. And Captain, hold on. Oh, I can't do that right now. Okay, never mind. I'll put the link in the description. I can't remember if I put an S in there or not. I think it's just Captain Curly Project. And the project is human curation. So, the last skill that we're going to have as human beings before the last skill that AI is going to take from us is the ability to curate things. So, Renee, your birthday is next week. You guys are both Capricorns, right? You're both Capricorns. Reliable, trustworthy. Yeah, so I took the week off, and that's what I've been doing. I didn't really take the week off. I just took, and I've made shorts in the time too. I've been messing around. Okay, if you're a Capricorn, that means Renee is too. So you guys are both Capricorns. Well, I'm a Virgo. So from what I'm told, Virgos and Capricorns get along really well, which might explain this whole conversation. If you put any stock into that type of thing. I don't know how people do these live streams without, not specifically index cards, but prompts. Because I feel like sometimes you run out of something to say. You got to have something to bail you out, right? But then it becomes like this agenda. Like, am I hitting all the points? It's a nice prop to at least have something to hold up. Hey, look at that. I didn't even try to hit all the points on this card, but I did. But I think that's my big lesson from this New Year's is like, pay attention to what you're actually doing, and make sure that your life is set up to accommodate that. And like I said, like YouTube is a big thing for me right now. This year, I'm going to dedicate myself to YouTube, which doesn't necessarily mean pumping out a lot of videos. Actually, I've had a realization about the type of videos I should be making. I never wanted to stop doing the gear videos, and I want to keep doing that. The app videos, when I'm in a mood to do app videos, I still want to do that. But I also want to bring over some of the stuff from, remember I was saying like the newsletters were getting a little long. I want to bring over some of the, like at least every once in a while, if I finish a book that's interesting and we're talking about, I want to do a video and curate the book in the curated feed. I got to lean more into the curation. It's been really fun experimenting with different types of videos, and I figured out what stuff works for me, like what I enjoy doing and what I don't, and what people are interested in too, like that. Theoretically, we're supposed to pretend like that doesn't matter, but it totally matters. If it didn't matter, we wouldn't be putting this stuff in. All three of us right here, we're all YouTubers. So we're all putting this stuff out. So obviously it matters whether people are interested. Doesn't matter necessarily how many people, but we do want it to put it somewhere where people can watch it. Yeah. Cue cards. Proven method. I don't, I don't know if it's an if or thing. I think, I'm no expert, but I think that, I think it's learning to balance the two. I think that the more you lean into one, um, the more dangerous it gets as far as like if you lean too much into what other people want, then you lose the reason for you to be doing it. And I mean, not just you as an individual, but I mean like you yourself. Like, why is it you that should be making that video? The individuality of you lose that. But if you lean a little too far into that and you make videos that nobody watches, then it also becomes a point of like, why am I doing this? I can just think these thoughts in my head and exist as an individual. So it's like threading those two and finding like where that breaking point is, like where those two things connect. Where is that? And I think that's the hardest part. I really do. Yeah, see, that's the thing that's great. Like, I love the idea that something can be kind of a dud, and then like somebody discovers it like 4 years later. And I don't mean like it blows up years later, but like when I get a comment, like the first video I did on this channel, I think it was the first one, was I want to say it might have been like 2 years ago, and it was just like a tutorial on something on Rome research, I think. And by the way, if you can hear that, that's the chair. I love when I get a comment on that video now out of the blue. Like somebody just discovers it and it answers a question for them. That's so awesome. I love that. That's the archive feature, like you phrased it, is the most interesting thing to me about YouTube. And it's the thing I never understood before. It's just really cool that you're putting things out and that maybe just one person eventually is going to go like, that's I needed that. Like I just did that video recently about it's a short video on bullet points in Obsidian in a specific theme. Super niche. But this other video I had done, this guy had watched, I think it was a guy. It's hard to tell on YouTube sometimes. But this guy didn't know what happened to his bullets. And it had been a long time since I set up that theme. And I remembered, like, oh, yeah, I went through that. That really sucked. And I started to I was actually on my phone. I started to type an answer to him. And I'm like, wait, this is impossible to explain here. And I had this epiphany, like, dude, just make a video for him. So I put a video out and like more than one person watched it. And that's awesome. Comments is hard because I'll say this. What I've noticed recently, I've been watching myself as a YouTube viewer as opposed to a YouTube creator. I've been noticing more and more my behaviors, and the more I noticed my behaviors, the more I understand things about YouTube that used to frustrate me before, like no comments. 90% of my YouTube viewing is on my TV, on the big 4K TV. And when I have my phone, I'll scroll through the feed and go watch later, watch later, watch later, and all the stuff I want to watch later. And then I'll sit down in the evening and I'll just blast through like 2 hours of stuff on my TV. But because it's on the TV, I have no way to comment. Luckily, they gave a ability to like thumb up things, but there's like no way to comment there. And theoretically, I know like, oh, I should go comment on that. But then, it's like, are you going to remember to go back to it later? So I think a lot of people might be doing that. I think a lot of people are just like, they're in a place where they're passively consuming and they're not, and I don't mean even just physical place. I mean like a mental place. They're not in a place to comment and then they just don't remember to go back. So I wouldn't read into it too much. I know that they talk about it being important with the algorithm, but I was just watching this video on this guy the other day, and he's like, everybody explains YouTube wrong. They always say that YouTube and the algorithm is going to push your content. And he's like, that's not the way the YouTube algorithm works at all. YouTube algorithm is a pull, which means I either go and I search for something and it pulls the things that I'm searching that are related to that search to me, or it looks at my viewing history and goes, this is the type of stuff you want, pull, 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 pull. But it's not pushing anything. So I think a lot of this stuff about like you got to do this for the algorithm or do that for the algorithm, I think a lot of it's bullshit, to be honest. It's stuff that people get really good views on their videos by saying, but there's no actual, YouTube's not telling people how this stuff works. So these people who are repeating this stuff, they don't know. They're totally guessing. What the hell do they know? I mean, what the hell do I know? You're right. And that's the hardest thing where you're like, oh, I want people to do something that I don't do myself. It's so awful. Like, oh, I should be commenting on everything. And sometimes, you just watch a video and you're just like, I enjoyed that. And I don't know what else to say. But then you feel weird to just like type, I enjoyed that. So you just don't say anything. But I think a lot of it, like I said, is like people being in a place where they can't comment. This is weird. I have a friend who watches YouTube in the car. Like he's got one of those things that like holds the phone at the dash, and he just puts his watch later or whatever, or I don't know what he does, but he just watches YouTube or Netflix in the car, and he doesn't look at the screen very much. So he's like using it almost like a podcast player. So he's not commenting. So I think there's a lot of people like that. I think they should just make it clear. But I think if they did that, then people would just be like, well, why comment if it doesn't mean anything? But I think it doesn't matter that much, to be honest. I think if you keep making, like, especially if you keep making gear stuff, it's going to get pushed out to people because that's something people are interested in looking into. I do have a tip though that I have noticed that has helped, not drastically, but it's helped a little bit with my videos, is thinking about the title and then thinking about, like we were just saying, thinking about your behavior when you're scrolling through there. Like, would I click that? Would I click that? Not necessarily clickbaity, but they said, I think it was, it might be someone who worked for Mr. Beast or something like that. They said, make it something that people go, I have to know what that means. It's not clickbaity. And then this other video, they're like, whatever you promise in the title, deliver. And also the first thing out of your mouth, screw intros, screw all of that. Don't do intros. Literally just first thing you say when the camera comes on is, this is what we're talking about today. And reiterate that you're going to talk about that thing in the title, because people are watching for that first 30 seconds. And this blew my mind because ever since I heard this, I've been catching myself doing it. In the first 30 seconds of the video, people are actively looking for a reason not to watch your video. So think about it. Like I said, I'm watching TV and I literally do this. I'm like, start watching, and in my back of my head, I'm going, is this what I want? Is this what I want? So nope. Or yep, like, oh, I don't click when it's yep. But so that's like the big thing. I think titles is a big deal just because of that. Like it's really, it could be like something just really simple. Some people will be like, number 3. If they do in podcasts on here, they'll be like episode 3. Nobody's going to click episode 3. Even like Renee and I did our podcast episode, and I changed the name of it. It's not, I mean, the name of the episode's still the name of the episode. I changed the YouTube thing after a week and the views went up. And I changed it to like, we became friends for the nerdiest reasons. That's interesting. Like, what does that mean? And it is pretty much what we talked about in the video. So we did deliver on that. So I've been trying to think a lot about that. Like I'm kind of defying that right now, but this is a live stream, so not really going to be worried about search on this. Let me catch up on some of the stuff. The hardest part about this is talking and then wondering, what's this going to be like when there's like 6 people talking? I think as long as you keep making those gear videos, that people are just it's gonna start hitting people, because that whole topic is just, especially right now, I feel like that whole EDC gear thing is so hot right now, and not in a trendy way. It's just like really, there's a lot of people that are really genuinely invested in that topic. So I think you're good as long as you keep sticking to that, if that's what you want to do, that is. Once again, that balancing of you and the others. The video, yeah, the TV thing, until it hit me that I was doing it, which is funny. You think it would hit you, but when I realized that, I'm like, oh, like both of you. Anytime I've watched either of your videos, most of the time it's been on my TV. There have been times where I've like actively remembered later, like, oh, go back and comment. But then there's times I totally forgot. Um, because usually what's running around in the back of my head, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys, is what's my next video going to be? There's always this pot boiling in the background of like, what am I going to do next? I have like 3 videos that I know I need to do this month because they're things that I've said I was going to do and I haven't got around to yet. Like I've got to go through the rest of like the gear in that Boulder wallet. What I was originally going to do, I was going to do a video on the flashlight, and then I realized like I don't want to do a whole video on a flashlight. That's not. So I think I'm just going to pull out the rest of the stuff in there and then go into a little more depth on them. I already did the knife, but like that flashlight has some cool features, but I don't remember most of them. Mostly I just remember on and off. So that'd be my perspective on it. That's probably why doing a whole video on it, I'm like, I don't want to learn how to use it. And then I got to do a video I got to do a follow up on the super note. I got questions from someone specifically that they wanted me to cover in that video. Renee, by the way, if there are any questions, I know that you're interested in the super note still. If there are any questions that you have that we didn't cover in the podcast episode that you think I should answer or that you want me to answer when I do the super note, let me know. Because I'm not gonna do like a review of the super note. I'm not gonna do that like it does this feature, it does this feature. I'm just gonna talk about something I don't see a lot of people talking about is how the hell do I use it? What am I using? What features am I using? Which, to be honest, are very few. Not to say that there's anything wrong with it. I'm really dialed into a couple features, and it's all I really need. And I'm just gonna walk through what that experience is like because I noticed a lot of the comments. People are like, "Should I buy this? Shouldn't I buy this?" And I feel like the spec thing on a super note doesn't really tell you should I buy this or shouldn't I buy this. What people actually need to hear is like, what is it like to use it? I can't go in a store and you test out a super note. So what's it like? What's it feel like to write with that thing? And then the third video I got to do something eventually on the camera, but I feel like I'm still a little ways off on that camera because I'm still figuring out how to use the damn thing. 15 subs in 1 week. That's good. I will give you both advice that I just got recently. Do shorts. Make shorts. And I didn't have the same result on the second video I did, but the first short I did, which I literally put no thought into, I just had the camera and I was like, meh, and recorded something like spontaneously on the spot. I filmed the short and then I took the dog for a walk. When I came back, I had over 1,000 views on that in like 20 minutes. So do shorts, make shorts. And it doesn't have to be goofy stuff. Like just do short form content of stuff that fits with your channel. In fact, like don't do stuff that's like drastically different than what people would get if they watch the video, because that's what they're going to want if they come to the channel. And that the statistics or the analytics will show you how many subs you get from shorts. And I got 5 subs from shorts just this weekend, and I only did 2. And the one great advice that somebody said, I don't know if you guys probably can't see my mouse. When you're watching one of your videos, if you mouse over the timeline, how sometimes you'll see the waveform looking thing, the gray waveform, that shows you view peaks in your own video. So if you watch your video and you hover the mouse over that, anytime in the video that you see one of these peaks, that's a part of your video that people really like. And you can cut that out of your longer video and make that into a short. So you don't have to make unique shorts. You can literally just cut the best parts of your video and make those into shorts. And then when people come to your channel, they'll see the long form content of the exact thing that they saw in the short that they like. It's brilliant. So I'm going to focus on that a lot. I think you guys would be really good at that too, because you both have very specific channels. So like if I go and I see like a small, like 40-second thing on Tana, and then I click into that and I see that there's a bunch of longer videos on Tana, you're going to get a sub because that's exactly what they want. So I think that would be pretty awesome. I'm going to try to do it this week to make some of those exactly the way I just said. Let me scroll back. So hard keeping up with everything. Sorry if I missed some of these. It's really hard to read these and talk at the same time. So the pre-opening of the TV show, I hate to say this since you already made it, I wouldn't do it because people skip those now. That's like this thing for 2023. They're saying no intros is a thing that people just wanted to start. I'd try it and see how it works, to be honest. But I think people just want to get right to the gear, especially gear videos. Like, show me the damn knife. Let me see the knife now. I've seen that when I watch my analytics. If I start talking before I pull out the gear, it's like. So if I start the video like this with like the knife in my hand, like I can sustain them a little bit longer. That's what like the Nick Shabazz, that big knife guy, like one of the best YouTubers on knives. All you ever see is his hand and the knife the whole time. He just cuts right into it. No pun intended. Okay, I'm missing some good stuff here. I can tell when you guys start talking longer. I know there's something interesting. Yeah, you did find me through the Victorinox video. You were one of the people that pointed out that I was saying cadet when I meant classic, which if I had realized that in editing, I didn't even realize it till you said it probably. And I knew you were right because I know that, but I didn't even realize it when I was editing. So at least I could have done like the word every time I said cadet, it could have said classic. It could have got at least some comedy out of it. But it is what it is. I got you as a sub, so that worked out. I didn't have to be factually correct, did I? And wow, if anybody knows, anybody out there watches that video and actually pays attention and realizes the difference between the classic and the cadet, well, the cadet is a pretty big difference. Post-release function. What's this? You guys got some stuff for. I recently discovered the post. I hope you guys don't mind me reading your comments out loud. I recently discovered the post-release function on YouTube. The reason I'm reading like this is because literally the screen is that far away from me. So that tiny little text that far away is not easy to read. I can do a video, upload it, and tell YouTube when to post. If I didn't get time to do a video that week, then I have some in the queue. Oh, that's a good idea. I wish I was that organized. My problem is I get excited for a video and I record it, and then I just want to do everything, edit and then publish. I've recorded. There's actually a video that I recorded a couple weeks ago that I was gonna. I did it like late at night. I was like, I'll publish that tomorrow, and I never published it. I'm actually glad I didn't because it didn't really. After a couple days, I was like, nah. But I have to ride that momentum. You know what I found out though is I don't know if this is true. Once again, the skeptic of the people talking about YouTube like they're experts and nobody knows what YouTube does. But somebody said that if you schedule your post, even if it's just like an hour later, you're going to get better hits because even though it says it's done processing your video, it's not done processing it with the algorithm necessarily. So the longer the video sits there and YouTube can like analyze the AI can analyze the video, the better it's going to understand who to push that content out to. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds pretty legit. Sounds like something I want to believe. Yeah, you do. I've seen you doing shorts. That's right. I forgot. Shorts are the thing. And this person was saying, I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos on YouTube about YouTube, that is, in the last couple days. This person was saying, they're like, oh, people are going to figure it out soon. So take advantage of it now before they figure it out, and then it won't be as valuable anymore. And it's kind of ironic because, like, yeah, they're going to figure it out because people like you made videos telling people. That's how they're going to find out. They're not just mysteriously finding out. You're the one telling them. But with 3 T's, I'm also going to be doing some chatty videos. Yeah, I think chatty videos, you should do live, Renee. It's scary, but you should do live because the same thing I was saying about shorts is apparently true about live. YouTube really wants people doing live, so they're going to, you get an extra kick for doing live. So, yeah, I'm just kind of looking at this as like a podcast, except the fact that people are here that I can interact with makes it a lot less stressful. Although, I know both of you, well, at least I know both of you via the internet, but it wouldn't be as comforting maybe if it was like randoms and I was having to deal with like random comments. That might be stressful. I don't know. Shorts are so short. Yeah, you think so, but when you try to do something on one thing for 1 minute, you realize how long that 1 minute is. 15 seconds is short, but you can go up to 60. But yeah, cutting the stuff is the easiest way to get into it, but you got to take advantage of it. There's going back to the intro thing, since you can't see what I'm looking at on the screen and I can. There is one channel and they're like, we have an intro, but it's 1.5 seconds long and it just makes a sound and it shows the logo and then boom, it kicks in. So maybe you can experiment with that. I don't know. Experiment with all of them. See what works and what doesn't. Watch that graph and see if you're losing people during a longer intro, then you definitely shouldn't be using it. If they're sticking around, then don't worry about it. Like I said, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm just believing people I don't even know. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, and going back to the post-release thing, there's a bunch of stuff like features and stuff that like I know almost everything that they make. Like, let's be honest, people complain about YouTube all the time, but when you look at like YouTube, they're literally making tools all the time just to make people more successful because they get money the more successful everybody is. But at the same time, like, there's so many damn tools, and I'm like, I should probably learn how to use like everything in here, but it's so tiring too. What was the other feature? There's something else. I was like, I should probably learn about that. It's like even just setting up go live. You think you just click go live? No, there's like 4 pages of stuff that you have to like click through. I don't even, like slow comments, like where it would like make you guys not able to comment more than once every 60 seconds. I guess you do that when there's just like thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know. I'm going to see if there's anything else in here I wanted to talk about before I forget. Did those? Oh, I'm good. Did I do these? I did them all without even realizing it. I wrote those down right before I started. So I guess I just preloaded them into my working memory. I'm looking forward to 2023. This is New Year's, and I said it was on New Year's, so maybe I should deliver on that. I don't know if I have any resolutions. I don't really like New Year's resolutions because I think they're usually New Year's delusions. That's why they always say that gyms make the most money they make all year in January. But I am trying to think about. There's this video I watched on YouTube. It was all right, but it was the idea of it stuck with me more. Maybe the title of it stuck with me more than the actual video, but to focus on systems and not goals. And I like that idea of like, oh, I can say I want to lose weight, but like, what are the things that I'm actually building that make it easy for me to lose weight? Like rearranging this office. What makes it easy for me to make YouTube videos? Oh, how about set up the damn office in a way that's a studio? So all I have to do is sit my ass down, learn how to do my settings, keep everything that I can in the same place except for my phone, and make that easy. Like build a system for that. I used to, when I had that website, I was writing about system stuff all the time. You think this would have clicked with me before? Yeah, I know. See, the problem with I have a standing desk, so there's only 2 legs, and these, I wish I could show you. I can, but I'd have to take my camera out of that thing. But there's like these posts that I have the light and the camera on, and they're attached to the desk. So that's what happened. And this is how much I'm touching the desk. So you can't see it. The desk is like this much further than me right now. And I'm literally holding my arms hovered above the desk. So once again, systems, maybe I should figure out a way to do something about that. Maybe I could put like a post underneath this side of the desk, like a collapsible post of some sort, just for when I film. Kind of a good example. I should probably do that. I should probably write that down. Yes. It's funny, that James Clear Atomic Habits book, I read it, I liked it, but the more time went on, the more I realized how good of a book that actually really is. And I think I didn't appreciate how good that book actually is because at the time I was reading a lot of like productivity type books, like getting things done, stuff like that. So at a certain point, it feels like you're just reading the same shit over and over again. And at the time I read that, it kind of felt like, oh yeah, this is just kind of, I know this stuff. But then like the more time went by, I realized all the little things in there that are different about that book that are really really valuable. Like that thing of like small habits consistently over time add up. And then like that's how change actually happens. Like, oh, like really? That's mind blowing. I bumped the desk again. Well, it's not the wall that's the problem. Yeah, it's just so the desk is on these 2 legs, but the legs are, because of the way the standing desk is made, the legs aren't at the center of gravity, and they're closer to you than the center of gravity and less towards me. So just there's that little bit of the wiggle. So it wobbles this way, and I'm on carpet. That's also why. So yeah, I think just like some kind of like collapsible rod, like even a shower curtain rod like that might do it. We'll experiment. We'll find out. Maybe I'll make a video on it. How to stop my table from wobbling. 3 views. And I don't even have the desk up high. This is like almost as low as it goes. So I don't know how often I'm going to do this thing. I think you're supposed to warn people ahead of time that you're going to do this. But as usual, I don't like doing things that way. I think the unfiltered thing is just going to be a thing that happens spontaneously. And that's the way it is. It happens when it happens. Could happen in the middle of the night, could happen in the morning, could happen in the middle of the day. Who knows? It's all about when I feel like recording it. And how frequently, I don't know. However often I want to. That's the fun. Like I kind of expected that this would be in a lot of ways a reiteration of the stuff that I've been writing in the captain's log on the website. But I'm discovering this is a very different experience, and it's actually you guys that makes it different in a good way. Well, see, the thing is, too, it's like, oh, it sucks if you don't catch it live because you wouldn't be able to take part in the comments, but theoretically, you could still watch it. I just like surprising people. We have ESP apparently, Renee. We have ESP 2003 ESP. Oh, I'm getting into the dad joke territory. Almost like this was a beer. Well, I think I've done all my cards. We're at about an hour and 5. And you guys probably want to go watch something else on YouTube anyways. So thank you guys for coming because you guys made it. Made it for me. Live is a weird thing. I wasn't sure what to expect from it. I wasn't sure how, I've got the feed over here and then I've got this picture over here and I have to keep reminding myself to look at the camera, and I wasn't sure how that was all going to work. But it's fun. I like it. Hopefully you guys catch it next time. maybe I can give like an hour warning. Who knows? I think I could do an hour. Sometimes it takes me like 20 minutes just to get my ass into the chair and actually start recording. So I could give a fair warning, use my phone of some sort. I think I can do that. Can I set up? I have to learn if I can set up a stream on my phone and then pick it up and actually record it with the computer. So many things to learn. Thanks, guys. Thank you for coming. And hopefully it wasn't too awful. I know it looks okay. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I even have a fancy lens that's dirty, apparently, rubber banded to my iPhone. Take off some of that digital. See how sharp and how shiny I look? I'm learning little tricks. This is the Cinebloom filter that I bought. Oh, there's the camera. Cinebloom filter from Moment that I bought for the X100F. So I know you'd think it looks better without, but I look too damn shiny. Watch. Oh, that's a little shadowy. Softens me up. I don't know. I like the soft. We'll see. All right. Bye, guys. How do I end this? Like you can answer me. It's brighter. That's why it looks better. It's a diffuser.